What's good, CNMI? It's my birthday. And of course, we're gonna do a mukbang because I'm that girl. We're also gonna multitask, and I'm gonna take some time to answer your questions while you watch me eat some delicious food that is especially prepared today by Chef Mimosa. So shout out to her, and shout out just for the love and support, and for the delicious food that we're about to, enjoy. So let's do this. First up is soba, and I gotta say, man, it looks delicious. There's some stuff in here that I don't normally eat, but I'm gonna get down and check it out. All right. So, what's the next question? What's the first question, gang?
Question number 1. What songs do you listen to while you're running?
What song do I listen to while I'm running? All right, so it depends on my mood. This good. Right now, heavy on the play rotation is Doja, SZA. I have SZA on permanent replay. I shouldn't, but my favorite song right now is Kill Bill. Don't ask me why. What's permanently on my playlist is Drake. And when I have big things going on in my life, there's this song that I just play constantly. It's called Big Rings. How does the lyric goes? I got a really big team. They need some really nice rings or some stuff like that. I get down on that. But other than that, it just kind of depends on the mood. So weirdly enough, there's some days, man, where like I'm just chilling out to some Pacific Cool, the Bee Gees, something mellow. And then sometimes I just listen to NPR, and I'm currently just listening to the news. So it just kind of depends. But if I really want to just get hype, it's Doja, SZA, Drake, Biggie, can't you see? That kind, right? Yep, that's on my playlist. So I really like fish balls, by the way. Chef Mimosa. I mean, you got me. I don't think I can get down on the noodle because I'm very particular about my ramen stuff. But the sauce, and for me, what makes ramen is the broth. And the broth is super on point. And I love fish ball. Of course, you got the eggs. And then the ginger. It's delish. But what's up with the next question?
Question number 2. What would be your approach on establishing help for veterans with mental, physical, or other issues?
Man, honest to God, shout out to Kuli, first of all, for trying his best, right? And this has been an ongoing issue for the longest time. We all know that access to veteran services in the CNMI is very limited. Everybody basically has to go off island to receive treatment. Spam. I love spam. I'll tell you the Tinian experience, right? A lot of people, without the support of the municipality and local funding, they couldn't even afford to come to Saipan to be able to get to be referred to go to Hawaii or wherever else to get their treatment. And the thing that disappoints me about the federal government is that this is your responsibility. And for the CNMI, we have so many of our mothers, sons, daughters going off basically to defend our freedoms and fight for, the values of America. But when they come back home, it's like they're discarded and left off to fend for themselves. And so I think that Congress itself really wants to address this issue. And I think that if this issue could have already been addressed during Kuli's term, it would have been already addressed, but it has not. So that is something that I'm definitely passionate about. We've had several members of our community who've come back from war and, have taken their lives, man. And I don't take that, this is a serious problem. And that is definitely one of those things that should be a priority. It is a priority to me. And it's something that I hope to be able to change in the, if I get elected. So I'm gonna eat this egg and then kind of move on because I don't want to get too full because there's just a lot of food in front of me. And I'm gonna be honest, I went and had buffet for lunch and I probably shouldn't have, but this is delicious. And I'm gonna take this one last bite. I probably shouldn't, but I love Spam and I love the sauce and it's so good. But I'm gonna set this aside and move on to the next dish, which I think is this dish over here that I'm supposed to take from the bottom. Coming up, I don't know what this is. Check it out, check it out, check it out. It's rude to smell food. I'm sorry. It's just what I do. Ooh, Laula. Having gone to UH and having lived in Hawaii for some time, I can get down on some Laula. But let me take this. You know what? Let's do this island style. All right. While we do this, what's the next question? Check this out. Check this out. Lao, 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 lao. Looks good.
Question number 3. How will you advocate for the CNMI amid the military buildup happening in the Marianas Archipelago?
The next question is, by the way, I mean, look at this meat. Super tender. Very, very well seasoned. The question is, how will I advocate for the CNMI with regards to the ongoing military buildup? All right. So for the past 10 years, since I've been home, a lot of things that I've been dealing with on the local and federal level is just dealing with the military, okay? And just last week, I met with the Secretary of the Air Force. And one of the things that I've been advocating for is, listen, DOD, you're having an impact, obviously, on the CNMI's economy because the governor has said that we're going to pivot away from our biggest tourism market, which supports our economy, thereby shutting down 40% of the tourist pipeline that's been coming in, okay? And as you know, the way the economy works, right? Our biggest economic engine is tourism. And if you shut that down, this is why we're having problems with being able to pay the bills. You've seen the news, retirement, potentially 25% reduction, can't afford to pay Medicaid, more cut in hours for employees. So what disappoints me is that I sit in these meetings and I hear a lot of military activities that are being planned across the Commonwealth in terms of infrastructure. The CNMI government has been advocating for more DOD activities. And what I do know is this, is that DOD will not spend on Saipan or Rhoda unless they actually have a presence or, more importantly, have a direct impact on that community. And because our government is asking for DOD to come and invest in the CNMI, the DOD basically is planning on building all this infrastructure across the Marianas. My disappointment is that there's no transparency in this process, right? So on Tinian, when the news was rolled out that DOD wanted to bomb Tinian and Pagan, there was an EIS that was rolled out that the community came out. Thank you, by the way, CNMI, for coming out, stepping to the plate, and submitting those 26,000 comments. What you should be on top of, basically, and should be asking your government, is that there's complete transparency in terms of any proposed idea. Don't wait until the EAS is dropped. Have them come out on a regular basis and report to the people. And if I were elected as your delegate, you can bet that whatever news in terms of these engagements, in terms of these developments, is shared with the people, because the people should be on top, right, of these discussions. And it is not for me as delegate to tell the community of Rhoda that you should have military activities. It's not for me as U.S. delegate to come and tell the community of Saipan that the community of Saipan should have these military activities. It is up to the community. And I feel that my role and my job as delegate is to put this information out and solicit your comments and get your opinion as to what you want happening in your backyard, you know? So that's how I'm going to advocate, is basically engage the community and have you be involved in these discussions and make sure that you know exactly what is going on, what is being planned, and that we don't wait until the 8th hour, the 11th hour, when these plans are already formalized and funded by Congress, right? And it makes it more difficult to stop at that point. I want you to know. I want you to be engaged. And so I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be that guy that's going to be in your face. Hey, this is coming down the pipeline with regards to military activities. And we're going to talk about it. And so that, to me, is the best way I can advocate on your behalf, by constantly reaching out to the community and having these public forums and constantly having these conversations and engaging you and getting your input as to what you want to see happen in your backyard. This is good, by the way. What is this? Is this carrots? Sweet potato. This is freaking good. Is this Rhoda sweet potato? Any sweet potato. It's freaking good. Woo! I'm sweating because I normally don't eat this much. Actually, I do, but I'm still eating. Anyway, what's the next question?
Question number 4. What do you plan on doing for the CNMI when you win?
What do I plan on CNMI? What do I plan on doing for the CNMI if I win? You know, everywhere I go, and I said this at the interview recently with KUAM, people are struggling, man. And I try to have conversations about actual federal laws that need to be changed. And truth is, man, people just cut me off. Because you know what people want to talk about? People want to talk about what are we going to do about making sure that retirees get their full pension? You know, people are talking about insurance. Insurance premiums have gone up, okay? Anybody who's working for the government, they've seen their insurance premiums go up, right? Which means that's cutting into your paycheck, which means you're receiving less at a time when the cost of food is going up, okay? And that's here in Saipan. So imagine if you're living in Rhoda, okay? You're living in Rhoda, okay? You're making the same amount as somebody who is living here on Saipan and who's getting deducted on your paycheck the same amount. But the price of freaking rice is like almost $80, bruh. Like, I don't even know how you can afford to eat rice. The other part that people are talking about is, right, just government employees, whether it be PSS or regular government employees. PSS, the Constitution requires that we, the CNMI has to give PSS 25%, right? And the government is struggling to meet that obligation because the retirees also, right, there's an obligation there to make the minimum annual payment. Regular employees, right? The talk is that there's going to be another hour reduction. All this at a time when the cost of living is going up. So what am I going to do? What I want to focus on are policies that impact our ability to grow an economy, okay? What are those policies? Let's talk about those for a second. Labor. Any economy requires a stable supply of labor. And sometimes, man, I read the Marianas Variety, and it makes me sad because this issue of the CW and the touchback, we're having these conversations in such a racist manner. Like it's an us versus them conversation. This is not an us versus them conversation. This is just an us conversation. The fact of the matter is that when we became a Commonwealth, you know how we were able to build at that time Royal Tiger Hotel? We were able to build that because we imported labor from the Philippines. This is how this whole system actually started. And now we have a lot of federal money just flowing into the CNMI, whether it be CIP, whether it be disaster relief funds, whether it is money from the BIL, you know, the Biden infrastructure law or the Build Back Better law, the Inflation Reduction Act, and then now this new Green Climate Initiative, man. There's a lot of federal money coming in to build infrastructure. Guess what? When you have a system that basically ties in your labor workforce needs with a prevailing wage system. Let me backtrack. The CW program basically requires that we do an annual prevailing wage study. And the prevailing wage study, because we don't have those fields here necessarily, those jobs here necessarily, right? What's happening is we're looking to other areas like Guam and Hawaii to see what the wages are, to basically now determine a formula to set the wage here, okay? So that's one, right? The cost of living in Hawaii and the cost of living in Guam is very different. It's very different. Two, you have all this federal money flowing in to build infrastructure. So now the impact on the local community is this. There are a lot of you who are trying to build your first homes. Never mind your first homes. Some of you are just trying to build a septic tank, okay? Some of you are just trying to build a garage. Some of you are just literally trying to fix, your plumbing because your septic system is not working. You need to put shutters and all these, like when you hire, the cost of labor is expensive, right? And there's this expectation that the people who live here is gonna fill the needs of the labor pool. We know that there's not enough people here. I was down in Rhoda and I was talking to the mayor, and you know what's so sad? She said she knows for a fact that this summer, 25 people are leaving Rhoda because the cost of living is too high. They can't afford to even live there. The same thing is happening here in Saipan. Drive down the road and see how many cars are up for sale. How many people are renting their homes, right? This is all tied into basically, even this labor situation is not just a labor issue, it's tied into people being able to afford to live here. So I'm an advocate, one, for extending, the CW program. No, let me take that back. I want a program that's specific for the CNMI, right? Because the needs of the CNMI is very different than the needs of Guam. It's very different than the needs of Hawaii. It's very different from the needs of the states. Everybody knows this. It's not just the people and the businesses here in the CNMI that's saying that. There's an actual Office of the Government Accountabilities report that's come out that says we will always be reliant on imported labor. So one, we all kind of have to agree, guys. We really all kind of have to agree and stop it with this us versus them conversation. This is just an us conversation, right? And we need it. We got to agree on it. And if you're somebody that's going to support me, just know that that's the position that I'm going to be taking, because that's the only way I see that, one, we can keep our tourism industry stable, because obviously it's not like people are lining up to get the jobs at the hotel to clean the rooms, right? Or to be waiters and waitresses. or to be guards, or to take care of the pool, or line up to clean the lawns, right? And there shouldn't be the expectation that everybody who lives in this community works for the construction industry or work for the tourism industry. We need our kids to have options and pursue whatever job and goal that they want. And this idea that we are going to be able to fill the labor pool with just local population, I think is, the data doesn't support it. The statistics doesn't support it. The Office of Government Accountability Report doesn't support it. And man, if we can't start making decisions based on data and actual facts, then we're just guessing. And frankly, over the course of this, 20 years, we've gathered a lot of data. Let's rely on those data to make these decisions. So, what's the next question? Ready? Whew. I'm gonna do this. Oh my God, crawfish. Check this out. I'm so excited. It's all about the sauce with the crawfish, honestly. And this sauce is banging. All right. What's the question?
The question is, what and or how would the indigenous culture fit into your plan, if any?
That's a good question. Because nobody's asked me that question throughout my knocks on doors. I was at an interior conference last year, and the dude who's a deputy, I went to law school with him. He's a deputy to Carmen Cantor. And one of the questions, as I was having this conversation with him, one of the questions he's asked me is, where's your OHA? And OHA is the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. One of the coolest things, man, about having gone to law school in Hawaii is that you get to see, what Hawaii has been doing in terms of advocating for their indigenous community, right? And so I think his question was very valid. Like, where is our OHA? And, in the CNMI, by constitution, guys, it's actually written in the Constitution that the Office of Indigenous Affairs, right? It's created by Constitution, okay? But yeah, we treat the Office of Indigenous Affairs, we treat the Office of Indigenous Affairs like just a dumping ground for politics. And yeah, I said that. You know what I mean? Sorry about it. Not sorry. But what I would like to see is an Office of Indigenous Affairs that's empowered. One, empowered. Two, apolitical. Okay? Focus on policy. Focus on policy that supports indigenous programs, preservation of culture, and advocacy of indigenous rights. All right? Now, we have a lot of unanswered questions with regards to where do we want to go as an indigenous people in the CNMI. We do. But, we treat that office like it's just another regular office. But what we should be doing is empowering that office by funding that office. And there's a lot of opportunities out there. I think OHA is a good model to follow. And if I was fortunate enough to be elected to be your representative, man, definitely one of those things that we're just going to have to pursue. Because right now, we look at that office as just an office that teaches people weaving. Okay? I mean, that's not why that office was created for. We treat that office like that's the office, you know what I mean, where we have these cultural month celebration, and then we celebrate like and have these proclamations, you know what I mean? Biba Indigenous Affairs Month. Biba Mes Chamorro, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's it. That's it. For me, right? The people who work at that office, and I know some people who used to work for that office. John Tagabot, man, that dude, super passionate. You know who else is super passionate? That I don't even know her, but I hear what she said. Luella, the new lady that's just been, you know, confirmed. I think she's super passionate, right? Let's get them the support that they need. If you listen to their ideas and get them the support that they need, I think that we could go a long way as an indigenous culture. And I also want to clarify this, okay, guys? And I wouldn't be me if I didn't do this. And right now, I'm going to tell you this. The sauce on this crawfish is banging. So I'm going to take a pause to say that. But, guys, we cannot keep having this Chamorro versus Refalowash conversation nonsense in terms of our history and our covenant. Okay? Sorry about it. Sorry, not sorry. I think there are certain groups that are out there basically misrepresenting the covenant, first of all, misrepresenting the Constitution, and trying to rewrite history to fit a narrative that's one, racist, divisive, and just nonsense, okay? That has to end. But I digress. And going back to the question, what would I do? That's what I would do, is advocate and use my know-hows and my connections to connect the Office of Indigenous Affairs with folks across America who have established their offices to advocate for their indigenous communities, and get them and empower them to be able to speak on behalf of indigenous of our indigenous community. It's good. Okay. What's next?
Next question. If you have to describe the CNMI in 3 words, what would you say?
The question was, ooh. The question is, look at this, shrimp. Oh my God. It looks good. And the sauce. I'm gonna run 20 miles tomorrow, by the way, guys. I'm just gonna sign up for the marathon. I'm gonna create my own marathon after this. But the question is, what are 3 words that I'm sorry, what was the question? 3 words to describe the CNMI?
Yes.
All right. Okay. The 3 words. Resilience. Number 1. Word number 1. Resilience. Resilience in whatever form. CNMI, man. We are just one of the most resilient people. And we take it for granted, right? And I think that's why we're willing to put up with just so much crap. You know what I mean? We withstood hundreds of years of colonization with the Spaniards, and then the Germans, and then the Japanese, and some would say the Americans. We live on the typhoon belt, right? We're just constantly getting hit by typhoons. Honestly, there's some people who are like, why don't you just move? You know what I mean? If you go to the Hyatt back there in Micro Beach, you can see the erosion from the rising water, right? Because of, global warming. So we're being impacted right now by just the water's rising and, global warming, like I said. So that's one. We're resilient. And through it all, we take it and we do our best to just rebuild and keep living our lives, right? The second word, family. I'll use family. Man. So, I would describe the CNMI as not a democracy, but a familyocracy. And I think that's why sometimes change out here is very difficult, right? Because it's like we want to make these hard choices, but we're not just thinking about us. We're thinking about the people that we love, our families. And the thing about the CNMI is our family is just not, our cousin. Our family could mean, man, just the people we work with, and people we grew up with. We think about them in the manner in which we live our lives, to include the election process, right? Half the time we don't vote because people are qualified. We vote because they're our family and we have that obligation. And man, I don't fault anybody for doing that. As a matter of fact, I totally respect that. And I love people for doing that because that's just our way of showing our love, right? We just love, we love the people in our lives, and we do everything that we can to show them our care. Third word. I think that I've been debating in my head as I was eating the shrimp and spewing out the words. I have multiple track thoughts going. So the word I'm going to throw out is young. Because this question is, what are the 3 words that you would describe the CNMI, right? So resilient, family, I'm going to say young. You know what irritates me? What irritates me is that I am 49 years old. The covenant was actually signed around the time that I was born, which means we've only been a government, okay, for 50 years. All right? That's how long. That's not old, man. If you look at other governments, right, the United States, Japan, they've all been in existence. I mean, the Spaniards came here and they had a government. Oh, it was like 19 tinaki ago, right? And then people want to come here from the outside, especially certain people who don't know our history, don't know who we are, and basically, call us incompetent. Sometimes I hear we're too brown to govern, right? But I'll tell you what, man. 49 years ago, this community exercised its right to self-determination. No other jurisdiction, no other territory of America has done that. We have people here who are incredibly smart, who are incredibly forward-thinking, who have done so much, but we overlook, all these good things that are going on in our community because all we do is focus on the negative. So those are 3 words. And I don't mean any of them in the pejorative. That was the question. What are the 3 words that comes to mind when you're describing the CNMI? And yeah. Whew. All right. I think we're done with this. We're going to move on. There's 2 more dishes. This is good. Oh my God. The next one, I think we're going to do the mango. Ooh, check this out. Check this out. So this looks like a pickle. I don't know what's in it, but it looks delicious. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna smell it. Okay. I'm gonna get down. What's the next question?
What is your post-education background?
Post-education background. Okay. So I think about post-education. All right, let me just give you a quick recap. Graduated from 8th grade, moved to the States, went to high school in Oregon. After I graduated high school in Oregon, went to college in Los Angeles, got my bachelor's in political science. And then I came back home. This is really good. I don't know what's in here, but it's really good. It could use a little bit more pica. Oh, I'll use some hot pepper. All right, let's do this. I moved back home. Started working in the youth center. Politics happened. Went back to get my master's. Came back. Politics was still happening. So I was like, man, I got into a field where I don't have to have politics dictate my life. Hence the reasons for going to law. Hence my reason for going to law school. So that's my education background. And since I've been back, these last 10 years, I've been a practicing attorney. One of the things that I really enjoy doing more than practicing law is community work. And one of the things that I'm currently working on, and by the way, guys, the Tini and San Jose Fiesta is about to come up. I also have this nonprofit organization called Friends of San Jose, and we're putting on the fiesta to raise money for the church, to rebuild the church that was destroyed by Typhoon YouTube. So that's what's going on in my life, other than, you know what I mean, this politics stuff and just the lawyer stuff. And, but that's basically it, man. I'm really super boring. I just work. I do that kind of stuff. Man, this is really good. It's good. And this hot pepper. What's the next question?
Next question. What will you do for the youth of the CNMI if elected Congress?
You know, I'm gonna move this. I'm gonna try some of this dessert to balance out the salt, because when you eat salt, there's nothing like balancing it with sugar. Let's see what this is. Matcha?
Thailand dessert.
Thailand dessert. Look at it, it's so cute. Oh, let's just put it. Okay, name it. For the youth. You know, guys, honestly, my favorite job on the planet was running the Tinian Youth Center. And I used to run a summer camp. It was a 2-week summer camp, free. Parents just drop their kids off at the beach with me. And every summer, there'd be a community project that we'd organize. I thought that the parents had a great time because then, like, you know what I mean? It gets kind of expensive during the summer for parents, right? When, like, you have the kids just kind of hanging out at home, eating all the food, and then turning on the aircon and all the electricity, right? So it's one way of giving the parents a break, too. So that was one of the things, man, my favorite things to do. Towards, before I got, you know, let go from that job because of politics, we started expanding the program to include Saipan. And, you know, when I came back from law school and I ran my first marathon, I was on my way to Marpi. You know that road that comes out from the Hyatt and then you hit Middle Road to go head up to the north? By an officer. And the officer was like, Miss. And I looked. And it just so happened it was one of the kids who went down to Tinian for the summer camp. Then, not too long ago, actually, it's been some time, there's another kid who went down who knows my husband. And so, you know, the impact that you can have on kids if you start them off, if you start engaging with them early, is real. And I was just down in Rhoda. This is really good, by the way. I was just down in Rhoda. And one of the things that I did while I was in Rhoda was give a talk on the covenant. And for me, that is one way of empowering our youth with tools so that they could better understand our system of government and they could hopefully play a role early on in terms of engaging with, you know, their parents, their teachers, and having these discussions, you know, about the issues that impact their life. So one of the things that I want to do is do just that, is to continue using my voice and my role to be an advocate and to be somebody that empowers our kids, you know. They're just telling me happy birthday. One of the things that I've been telling kids is that I am on the downward trajectory of my life. And, you know, I've been having conversations with my daughter. She's going to be 21. And she doesn't want to come back home, right? And so this is the whole point, right? Is to create a CNMI that allows our youth or empowers our youth, one, to be a part of decisions that are being made today that will impact them the most. You know, I could sit here and pledge like, oh, I'm going to give you more money for schools. Dude, guaranteed. And that's one thing that Kilili has been super awesome about, is his support for education, right? His support for programs that benefit families and kids, such as the food stamp program, right? You know, for those who are most underserved in our communities and you know, who need that kind of social safety net. For me, obviously those programs, I 110% support. But on a personal level, I would like to use my voice to help advocate and to empower our kids to be able to participate in these conversations that are going to impact them the most. Because I don't see enough of them coming out to the ballot box, you know, to the ballot booths. I don't see them engaging in campaigns. I think, you know, they're at the point where they're just trying to figure it out. And I just want to be able to empower them and get them to understand why elections matter and why them being engaged in understanding what the issues are is important. And I personally want to make that my mission. And that's not something that the federal government can do for us. That's just something that I personally want to do on a regular basis, is to come out and engage with the community, especially our youth, and empower them with the tools to be able to have a voice so that they can help themselves. Any more questions?
Okay, this is a two-part question.
Two-part question.
Please elaborate about the 21.9 million and your thoughts on the inter-island ticket prices and CPA.
Woo! CPA, my favorite topic. I live for CPA. All right. So, there are two Department of Defense proposals that are going on right now. They are military training activities in the CNMI. The divert lease agreement, which was executed between CPA and the Air Force and the Department of Defense, is basically a lease for space on the north of the Tinian Airport. And backstory, initially, DOD basically came out and they offered a set amount, right? And it was very low. It was in the hundreds of thousands. And then we pushed back and we went back and forth. And one of the things, right, was that DOD was coming out and saying, hey, we have this policy, we have this regulation, we have to follow it. This is all we can give you. And the problem at the time was that because Tinian has no zoning, everything is considered ag land. And when you're considered ag land, basically, your cost of real estate, right, the value of your real estate is really low. And that's basically the way that they determine the price of the property, is based on, market value. Well, we knew that there was $21.9 million sitting on the table that was already appropriated. What they had in mind basically was to set aside some money for the lease using those funds, but also to use those funds to start mobilizing for, bidding out the construction. We weren't having it, and we basically told them that we weren't going to settle for anything less than the 21.9, and that's how the 21.9 came to be. Okay? But I think the more important conversation, because a lot of people do not know this, is how CPA manages to be able to fund its operations. So, number one, nobody gives CPA any money for personnel or operations, okay? The CNMI government doesn't give CPA that money. The federal government doesn't give CPA that money, all right? The only time that the federal government stepped in and gave CPA some money for personnel and operation was when, the CARES Act because of COVID came out, right? But on a regular, ordinary day, CPA has to generate revenues to be able to pay for operations and pay for its employees. There's two ways. I'll keep this very simple, okay? CPA basically first determines its total cost of operations, all right? So for example, CPA decides it's $1 million to pay the utilities, it's $2 million to pay for its employees, it's another $2 million to be able to run whatever, right? So they determine that amount, okay? All right, and because CPA does not get money from anybody else, they have to pass on that cost to somebody else. Who is that? Well, there's two ways that CPA makes its money. One, it's by collecting airline landing fees, and two, terminal rental rates. Okay, what's terminal rental rates? So you go up to CPA, right? You see duty-free renting the space, right? You see the rent-a-cars renting the space, okay? Those are terminal rental rates, okay? The other part, right, is terminal landing fees, okay? So terminal landing fees basically is the number of planes that land, right? And then, right? So every time that the plane lands, CPA collects from the airlines.
That's how CPA makes this money, okay? All right. You know why it's high right now? Because there's not enough planes coming in. There's not enough planes landing. And that is why we have to basically exhaust all options on the table to be able to bring more tourists into the CNMI. Historically, pre-pandemic, the China market represented over 40%, which is almost half of the tourists that land here, okay? Now, our government has decided to pivot, which means that money's no longer coming in. So what's happening basically is that CPA's operational cost remains the same, but the number of planes that are landing has significantly decreased. And so CPA takes its total cost of operation, divides it amongst the airlines that are landing, and collects from them. And that's how the rate is set in a very oversimplified way. So do I think the fares are high? Hell yeah. Man, I just went down to Rhoda. You know, oh my God. Okay, it's cost prohibitive. Families from Tinian cannot afford to come to Saipan because it's just, you know, 2 people coming up here, right? It's $150 round trip per person. So like if it's mom and dad that's coming up here to shop, that's already $300. And then when you land here, you got to rent a car. That's another $100. So that's $400. And if your payday is only $700, man, how are you going to afford your groceries, you know? So I get it. It's high. But the only solution to that is to bring in more airlines, is to bring in more tourists, okay? That's just the way it works. Or have the government subsidize it. Those are the 2 options.
And definitely sure that it says level up. It's such a beautiful day.
Oh my God, with a CNMI where? Why do I sound like a cornball?
Say it again.
Oh my, no, but seriously though, this cake is so cute. Oh my God. Close up, please, close up. It's like the CNMI. It's the muer. It's so cute. And it says level up. Oh. Level up. So obviously nobody wants to be in this mukbang with me. Is that how mukbangs are supposed to be? So I'm lighting my own candle. But legit though, this cake is so cute. Oh my God. All right.
Happy birthday to you.
It is happy birthday. And, you know, this cake is so cute. I love it. All right, guys. You know, sometimes having these types of conversations, right, when you're talking about dense policy issues is boring. It's so boring. But like I can go on and talk about it forever. And, you know, I hope that this was a fun way to kind of just, you know, listen, right, about some of, you know, the issues that impact the Commonwealth. And, you know, I hope that there will be more opportunities, hopefully without me, you know, eating myself to sleep and having a connect attack in the future. But that food was really good. Shout out to Chef Mimosa for hooking it up. And because this is a mukbang, I'm gonna have to like tear into this cake. And I feel really bad because it's so pretty. But listen, CNMI, I love you. You know, this cake is really delicious. It's carrot cake, and actually carrot cake is my favorite. But I want to close out by saying, I know there's so many of you who are hungry for change. And I just want to say, we're worth it, man. We're worth it. So level up with me. You know what I mean? Let's do this. Maybe not mukbang style, but you know, let's just do it. Okay? I love you. Bye. I am Kimberlyn King-Hinds and I approve this message.